All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's everyone doing? Give everyone just a chance to get their notifications and sign on. We have some really timely messages coming through, and this would feel a little bit like a practical modern day Ascension manual. That's why she called it Ascension 101. So today I'm going to be conscious channeling with Lilith, and we're going to talk about what she feels needs to happen for us to evolve spiritually and ascend in a modern practical world and what that looks like. You know, we used to think it would look like joining an ashram or moving off into the woods somewhere and getting away from everyone, and that doesn't appear to be the case. We need each other now more than ever, right? So how is everyone's Thursday evening looking so far? I brought one of my favorite crystals to show to you because you always ask me what my favorite. This is rhodochrosite. It's very pink. I know you probably can't see exactly how pink, but it is very pink. And it's really a great heart opener when you're working with Lilith. Can you guys see it, or is the light too flashy? It is an incredible heart opener when you're working with the Divine Feminine. So I brought it for you today. I've been wearing it all day, and she's been around all day, and I wasn't sure who was going to come through, but rhodochrosite is an amazing tool for channels, especially for empathic channels and natural healers and people who have empathy kind of in this really natural way. Rhodochrosite is incredible. So I like to wear it along with some rose quartz just around my general channeling area. For channels, there are particular chakra systems and nadi points that when we use certain crystals, it opens things up really clearly. So if you want to connect with Lilith as well, you can also try out the combination of the rose quartz and the rhodochrosite, and you will have a lot of fun feeling the Divine Feminine. Yeah. How are you doing? Marjorie's at home sick. Oh, we just got over it. It was our first wedding anniversary on 11/11. And we went up to the hot springs here in Colorado and rented an awesome Airbnb and thought this is going to be great. And we got sick, just sick, 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 like COVID style, whatever it was. So, and just now kind of slowly getting over it. Yeah. And I had it for like that whole week before, but yeah. Then I gave it to Anya. Yeah. Let's get business out of the way. Let me start with some short announcements. On November the 25th on Patreon, I've linked it above. We're channeling a human from the future, a new one from what we call the New Earth Order for year 2111. So that's a long way from now, but she has a lot to say about our progression from now to then, what's going on then. The New Earth Order is an incredible part of Earth that a lot of people have a lot of curiosity about with New Earth and what it's going to look like, over 100 years from now. And you'd be surprised. It'll be an incredible time. So definitely different than Clarion, that portion of Earth and Clarion's perspective. So you will enjoy Chelsea. As much as you enjoy Jesse, we also channel Jesse from the Republican Renegade Order, which is another portion of New Earth over 100 years from now. She's incredible too. And that whole group is incredible. So we've had some good channelings of these humans from the future. And it's been a lot of fun. So that's coming up on November the 25th. Yeah. Okay. Oh, let's see where she wants to start. Again, for those of you who are just joining, we're doing some work, some conscious channeling today with Lilith. She wants to talk about something that is a bit of a manual. So you can ask her questions after this. And she really wants to get more into, I just lost my whole screen to be able to see you. Lovely. Technology is just not so fun these days. Where's my screen so I can see you? It's begun. Where did we go with ourselves? There's my screen to be able to see you. Okay, there we are. And we lost it again. Technology is not my friend today. I have two major screens on my computer, and if I click the wrong thing to be able to see you, sometimes I just probably shouldn't click anything at all because I will lose you. So hopefully I won't do that again. I'm still trying to find the screen to begin with. There you are. All right. So she wants to talk about something called Practical Enlightenment, which is an Ascension 101 manual for kind of stepping up your pace more into a modern practical world. So this idea of us needing to become recluses and to protect ourselves and shield ourselves and worry about our frequency all the time, quite frankly, it's not Lilith's thing. You know, how do we say that nicely? It's not her thing. And that's because all of that from the past, she says, all of the whole caste system based patriarchy, where you're told you need to meditate for 2 hours straight and you need to do certain things in order to reach a higher state with ascension, isn't really where we're going in our modern world. And we've had 200 years of trying that. You know, we've had so many years where monks and nuns and yogis would fast and chant for 3 hours straight, and sometimes they would get into like self-wounding and all kind of crazy stuff. And then the only thing it did was really keep their egos under control temporarily. They'd have a few mystical experiences and go back to normal anyway. So this idea that we need to be different than we are is not where Lilith wants us to be in Ascension. So she says that for the past 50 years specifically in New Earth and in our Ascension and evolution as a collective, she says, for that amount of time, for 50 years, you've been running from this normalized routine that seems to dish out depression as a statistic, anxiety, highly sensitive people. It's become a normal thing for people to say, I'm highly sensitive, right? And that's because when she says, when you repress energy of who you are for so long by trying to normalize yourself in a practical culture, you can't actually normalize yourself because there's no normal. There's no new normal. There's no old normal. Nothing was ever normal about ascension for humans. And in this wild rat race that you've been in, she says, you've been trying to normalize yourself, desensitize yourself not to be so awake and aware, when the truth is you're trying to build your energy so that you don't always have to mitigate it and protect it and manage it. This is not where you're going as a culture, she says. Otherwise, depression and highly sensitive pain from being highly sensitive, anxiety is going to become sort of a trait that you have and a stigma that you have to protect yourself from your fullest potential as divine feminine beings on this planet. So people had been hiding in the patriarchy for so long, and in attempts of normalizing themselves, she says, we became incredibly sensitive, incredibly overwhelmed, incredibly overstimulated. And then she says, as soon as society's norms, as soon as they try to trap you with their idea of stability, their idea of success, their idea of spirituality even, what you would typically do is shield, close up, and say, I'm too sensitive for this. And she said, and then you would get the F out. You would go run. You would go shield. You would go home to mitigate and manage your own energy. She said that meant for working people, in your day jobs, it would mean no boss. You would get so excited about the idea of not having a boss to angrily revolve your entire life around and to complain about. No long-term employment that could tell you who you are on a day in, day out business. No comfort to keep crawling back to. And that's what you wanted. And now you're starting to get it, right? So she said initially in Ascension, you would go off and you would do these summer retreats, or maybe it would be a summer yoga retreat. Maybe it would be an idea where you go off and get an Airbnb in the wilderness and re-tap back into yourself as if the earth isn't constantly beneath your feet, even in the concrete cities. For summer tree planting in the rugged wilderness, or for camping, or volunteering in meditation centers. Maybe, she says, maybe it was you were learning a craft in the Himalayas, up in the mountains of India. And you can do all that, and then nothing about your existence actually looks practical or normal, because you have to go home to yourself at some point. Those experiences end. So this idea that we used to have of running off somewhere else to be spiritual, at some point we got to come back to ourselves. And you got to engage in, as much as it's not a real world, what people call a real world, because you're here for a reason. Because you have karma that keeps kind of shouting in your mind, and then we have the the whole karmic struggle. And then you run back to the same questions anyway. And this has been this ensuing pattern of running away, coming back, and then hating it, and running away and coming back, and then not liking it, and saying, when will I one day be able to retire so that I can be spiritual? Right? So, and the first step you do in that is, some of you say, I want to become an artist. I want to become an artist. And this is what she has to say about that. She says, you might think that wage salary is dehumanizing because it's just following a set of tasks laid out by somebody else, where you and your individuality don't really matter at the end of the day. So you go in search of the opposite. You go in search of becoming an artist and total originality, your special creative niche in this world. And that becomes a part of where you go next. I want to become a healer, an artist, a channel, a teacher, a mystic, right? Here's the hard part about that. No one told you that all the great classical artists of the past had wealthy patrons backing them up. All the great composers had nurturing cultures just to uplift them. So initially that's scary, because what do you have? In the age of data, information overload, and pop culture attention spans, and economic decline. Hey, you're gifted. You go for it, right? Go for it anyway. Don't monetize your creative passions into a spiritual dead end. Do you understand what she's saying? Make them your source of inner fertilizer instead, and then watch the money flow. Let your art be for you. Let it fertilize your entire grounds of you from the inside out, and then watch your patronage. Then watch your support. Then watch, how you get your galleries and things like that going, right? Here's another point she wants you to consider in this practical world of Ascension. She said, please don't go chasing after your Shangri-La. She said, some of you want to become monks. Some of you want to go become spiritual leaders who actually run ashrams or retreats somewhere. And you'll say, what's the point of it? Everything is consumerism overload, and I hate money, and I hate materialism. That's not where we're going either, right? She says, half of you can't even meditate long enough to see how inefficient human lives are to begin with, much less go deep inside of the mind. Then reality will hit you. So spiritual teachers, and most important, like our relationship to spiritual teachers, are just as unreliable and imperfect at times as any other bond. And spiritual organizations are, we tend to think they're going to go in and it's going to be perfect, but they're not beehives of enlightened activity, she says. She says that spiritual organizations and communities can also be nests of delusions where narcissists hide. That may not be your beginning place either, practically, because the only difference being the increased discomfort and poor living conditions and, wanting to go live off the land with other spiritual people, the only difference between that and really focusing on yourself and healing from the inside out, healing from your own sacred space, is that at least you know who you are and that you can count on you, right? To be fair, we all need to experience life in places with alternative values, and it's this minimalist living is crucial to begin to purify our minds, at least at the beginning. But you can start there by purifying your foods, purifying your water, learning to make a home out of exactly where you are without making excuses saying that you can't or why you shouldn't. Because where you are is where it's at, she says. And she also says there's no escape from yourself, even going into a communal living situation, a more enlightened country, a more enlightened culture, a more enlightened community, more enlightened soul family isn't going to help you escape from yourself, because the only way out is in. Ignorance and narcissism will follow you wherever you go, not because you have karma or they're reflecting something that you need to learn still, or that you're not healed or you're not whole. They follow you because if you really want ascension and you really want to evolve, you've got to confront and overcome your own degrees of narcissism, your own degrees of fear, your own degrees of ignorance. And if she says any person that's here today that says they don't have even a mild amount of narcissism is lying to themselves. Everyone at some point has had narcissistic capacity. Everyone. Okay. Here's the third don't, insofar as the Lilith Ascension manual. She says, please don't keep asking the guides and the angels how to upgrade your inner world, because initially you don't know what that looks like. The great masters of human consciousness, like Krishna and Buddha, had a lot to say about karma and karma yoga on the path of work, of our spiritual path, of what that looks like in service to the world. Krishna would advise not obsessing about the results of what we're doing and trying to get to the end of the line before we do our work. And our focus should be on the journey and how to best execute the process for ourselves and others. And Krishna would say, if we get depressed or worried about the potential future, he'd say that we're a bunch of impotent weaklings. He literally said that. So sometimes we think, well, I'm going to go here and channel Krishna, but we're not ready to hear what he had to say. Buddha said that any action, however mundane and however much we don't want to do it, can set up the seeds of enlightenment, as long as you're the one that's controlling your mind and you've got that inner game of ascension under control from your heart. So an ascension for a practical world, this means expanding your mindfulness to detach from all negative states. And the common negative states, according to Lilith, are self-centeredness, distractions, addictions to laziness, and our habituation towards this unknowing ignorance, right? So those are the things that we work on, just like we would 100 years ago. So those are sort of the similarities of a modern ascension path. And this means, according to Lilith, sweeping the floor, doing your dishes, doing your taxes with the thought or mantra of opening up your heart. This is one of the many ways I love to use the Lotus Sutra, by the way, is to get through what would be otherwise the mind would say, I don't like that task. That's not spiritual enough. So Buddha would say executing a task with the challenge of remaining cognitively and emotionally focused through it, not just trying to get it done. So these tiny habits built up over a lifetime, or maybe many lifetimes, are what create the causes for ascension and spiritual liberation. So if you're the faithful type, you're the devoted type, you don't give up, even offering up your actions to the divine. When you speak with Lilith and you offer up your actions as a service to Divine Mother, as an act of its devotion, of its celebration, of trust to Divine Mother, anything like that can lead to ascension. Even according to the Bhagavad Gita, it would say that leads to liberation, right? So here's another thing on the list. In the Lilith Ascension 101 manual, don't run from the mundane in your life. Instead, transform it. You're not stuck at your dead-end job or in your dead-end relationship. Your mind is stuck. And there's no one outside of you that can make it unstuck. And even with the greatest spiritual teacher right in front of you, all that they're able to do is to urge you to perform that act of freedom and release and letting go for yourself. So it's going to feel initially in this type of ascension, when you learn to transform the mundane, it's going to feel like swimming upstream. And you'll say many things to yourself. You'll say the world is unfair, that it's all too easy to put off the inner work until later because of all the things going on right now. You don't need to meditate. There's just too much going on. Have you ever said those things to yourself before? Right? And that is where a spiritual teacher would come in. That's where people like me would come in, because I won't let you do that to yourself. That's where, if you wanted a teacher, you could get someone that holds you accountable, right? Someone that you're not afraid of, that you know isn't judging you, but loves you enough to hold you accountable to your ascension. So that's what I do as a spiritual teacher, and that's what Lilith pushes me to do, even when you don't like it, because she pushes me to keep on reminding you about what this human life is really about, until the message of true liberation sinks into enough of us. It feels a little bit like running around in circles, but at least we're doing it together. The biggest message that she has for you today is that you are not your outer conditions. You are not your circumstances. You are not your chaotic inner feelings either. You are the awareness, witnessing it all and choosing to send its energy into this or that. So at the end of the day, only you know your path forward. Okay. Let me see if I can pull my screen back up and find you. She wants me to field your questions to her at this point. Field your questions. She wants to talk to you. What is your idea of ascension? What can she help you with? How can she serve you today, is what she's asking. How can Lilith serve you today? Put your question in. Where to begin with all these advisors? She says, did you know that the greatest Buddha, the greatest master, the greatest mentor is a vibration of God or Goddess within you? And the only reason why you even still need a teacher is because you have forgotten that. So any teacher that can actually lead you back to you, not a teacher who fights you, but a teacher who holds you accountable, not a teacher who lets you get away with everything because they're afraid of you either, but a teacher who guides you back to finding your own vibration. That is how you pick a teacher. And when you find that teacher, you feel it to your core, and it just won't go away. And every time you see them, something lights up. Even if you're angry with the teacher, something lights up inside of you. And later you can look back and go, I didn't like what she said, but it was true, and it lit something up in me and my life changed. That's a teacher. Um, mm, this is interesting. This person in chat says, I chatted with you online before about a presence that followed me to my new domicile, and I love it. He says, I am a 67 year old vet. Okay. Do you mean vet like veteran or vet animal? Because I am feeling a little bit of something, and I'm making sure that I got that right, because it feels like vet, war vet. Can Lilith explain who chirp is? Okay, so it's a sound, it's a vibration. It is, she says that is an elemental deity that sends itself through animal totems to talk to you, and also is a galactic member of your soul tribe that would be originally known as Anra. So Anra, I don't know a lot of other people right now who channeled them, but I do remember maybe Corey Good or someone channeling them, and he called them blue avians or something like that. And there's a lot of controversy surrounding them. I never listened to his channelings, but when he said blue avians, I asked my guide what that was. And she said, that's Anra. These are these beings that were part Syrian, part Lemurian, part Atlantean, part Lyran, and they were also bird-like, very bird-like. And it was around during the time of Ra and Ra-Ta and Tutankhamun and all of these great beings who you would think, according to history, you see the mask on top of their head with the bird-like figure, Horus as well. That was the Anra coming through. So I feel like this is a being that comes through as a vibration, and you need to let that vibration help you with what she's getting is what she's saying is with healing, is there to help you with healing. Yeah. Can you see my question? No, I have so many people asking questions, and I don't see well, so I have to really hone in. Sometimes my guides read the screen for me. It's hilarious. Vision isn't great here. It's great in here, but not out here. How can I know my reception is accurate? That is a good question, because she was helping me today with that, and she was helping a student through me, actually. And it was very interesting, because what I notice is that people, particularly people who have the capacity to channel and or have mediumship capacity, will struggle with and not trust their discernment of what they're getting and their reception of spirit. And there's a reason for that. If you're meant to be a medium, what the beings that come through that focus with you, those beings are, they're here to initiate you. Right. So you're going to deal with trickster spirits as a medium. You're going to deal with initiations, and humans think initiations look like, oh, yay, I'm going to get to the next level of my mediumship capacity. Right. So in Ascension, what that looks like for mediums like you, David, is that beings may try to trick you. They may try to give you some very specific information. And you can tell it's a spiritual initiation because it always relates to something either personally in your life. I've had beings come through and try to tell me, tricksters, like you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And, and it's kind of sometimes this big lofty thing, or sometimes it might be that someone's going to die. Sometimes it might be like really things that are like, someone's going to win the lottery, things that aren't really along the lines of what you would say, like Lilith and Hillel, Metatron, Michael, Jesus. The beings I typically channel don't go there. They don't go there in life or death situations. They don't go there about money. They really don't tell you these things, so you can trust your receptivity when you're connecting with something that's bigger than your everyday world. So if a guide says, okay, you might win some money, then an angel might come through and say, however, this is just an alignment, and here are the multifold paths that could ensue. You can trust your receptivity when beings kind of gear away towards birth, death, pregnancy, sickness, and more towards, okay, if they have to tell you that, they're going to tell you why. They're going to tell you all the potentials. There's just certain things that when you're being initiated, you won't trust, particularly not in mediumship. But channeling is a higher level than that, where if a being tries to tell you something related to that, they're going to tell you the whole picture, not just you're going to win some money or someone's going to die. Quite frankly, I don't think I've ever had an angel tell me someone's going to die. It's never been an angel that tells me that. It's not the angel's thing. So know kind of the rules of mediumship and channeling and the rules of working with angelics. And when you know that, it will be easier to learn to trust what you're getting. And if you do get something that seems a little bit like it's playing around with the unethical, you're going to bring that to the angels instead and say, okay, why was I given this information? And they can say, okay, that was your spirit guide so-and-so, and they're telling you all the potentials. And here's what we can look at a higher level. Okay. When you start understanding more of the rules of channeling and mediumship, you're going to know how to work that for yourself. Do you understand what Lilith is saying to you with that? You need to know how to work that for yourself. Okay. Any messages for Natalia? Let me see. Lilith is giving me this feeling of like an iceberg and that you're inside of it. And not with anger, but with power. You're punching through it and you thought that it was a big iceberg, but it's something like a thin sheet of ice. And then you hurt your arm because your arm went too far. Have you ever done that and misgauged your strength and you thought that you needed all the strength in the world to punch through a certain barrier in your life? Or have you ever done that just in like karate or boxing or some martial arts where I remember doing this when I was much younger and into martial arts, and they pull out the little boards and, the thing that they do, and you don't think you're going to break it. And they give you this tiny little board. And I didn't even know that I was strong. And I was like, okay, get all your strength, right? That's the image. And then you're like, whoa, and you punch through the thing, and then you punch too far and sprain your arm because it was just a tiny little thing to begin with. That's what's going on in your growth. So trust your strength and save your energy. You don't need it. The shield around you, the barrier around you is smaller than you think. Pick your battles and save your energy, she says. Does that make sense? Let's see. How does Lilith define liberation? You are liberated not when your thoughts cease, but when you are the master of them, not the other way around. Your brain is an organ. It has a function. It is to think thoughts. That's it. You are liberated when you recognize that you are not the thinker of the thought and the thought isn't you. You are liberated when you begin observing, just to begin the path of observing that voice in your mind that tries to tell you what everything is, what to feel, what to think, what you should and should not do. You are liberated when you recognize a witness behind that process saying, who's doing that? What is that? That's not me. That is the beginning of your liberation. Why, this next question here, let me read it again. Why do I sometimes feel disconnected? This is from Nadia. She wants to answer that. She says, it is because you have forgotten that the kingdoms of God are not things that you should sacrifice for anything this world has to offer. And you don't need anything that this world has to offer to prepare you for being ready for what your kingdoms of God within you have to offer. You have forgotten that. And in those moments, you feel disconnected. Simply return. It's as simple as that. What can we expect of winter solstice? She said it will be not such a painful, suffering-based, sad, dark period as it was last year and the year prior. This winter solstice will be a period of inner quiet excitement, sort of like a pregnant woman preparing to birth a child. And you know that something special is coming. And you know that the birth won't even be that painful. You're just tired of waiting on it. That is what this winter solstice feels like. She says it is an agitation to get out of the womb, even though you're not ready to birth the baby. You are the mother and the baby simultaneously, preparing for birth and wanting to be out of the womb. Some advice for, this is from Syndicate. Oh, I love that name. Can I steal it? Lilith loves it, she says. She says it should be a Lilith article. The Syndicate. Lilith the Syndicate, she says. She's just joking, but she said, I'm joking, but I'm not. This person is a phenomenal writer, and you should say such. You should tell them. Your question, advice for overcoming fear of intimacy, rejection, and abandonment. She says, know that you can be intimate and knowing that you probably will be rejected and abandoned. When you make rejection and abandonment an intimate compadre, what's the word? Compadre, friend, an intimate friend, then you're no longer afraid of hanging out with her. Abandonment is your best buddy. She said, and don't make it like a wine buddy either, where you just sloppily drink and then, have to get an Uber home. Make it a really intimate companion. Maybe you'll be sad together. Maybe you'll build each other up. Maybe this will be a time when you praise that companion and say, thank you for telling me how I feel about this. And thank you for knowing that sometimes it's just going to happen. And that it doesn't mean that I'm unworthy. And that it doesn't mean that I'm ugly or undesirable. It doesn't mean that I'm alone or forever will be if I think that I am. It doesn't mean anything. It's just how I feel. And my thoughts are fleeting because they aren't me. Remember that. My thoughts are fleeting because they aren't me. Can Lilith elaborate on the middle path? Is it neutrality? She said, I can't quite give you that word because when you think of neutrality, you think of something that feels boring to you, or you feel that neutrality would be something that is indifferent, or perhaps you think of non-attachment and you think, how boring would that be because I don't have a desire for anything. The middle way, the better word for that would be contentment, peace, trust, flow, allowance, acceptance. These would be better paths for you to consider, better sacred languages with a holy frequency for you to utilize. Neutrality holds no power. What power does that word hold for you? It feels just your arms like this. So what about these other words I've given you? Do those words hold power for you? Think about it. You get to choose what power word you have, what vibration you have to understand this, to pull into your thoughts and into your awareness. Yeah, but no, not neutrality. For me, the middle way feels like trust. I don't always like it. I'm not always neutral about it. Sometimes I'm kicking and screaming, but either way, I have to trust. That's my middle way. What is it for you? Yeah. Growing old scares me. How can I transform the fear? She says, is it truly the old age, or is it what you've made it mean? In a growing world of beings who are afraid of the future, you are afraid that you will be old, alone, feeble, or that you will be in a world full of war and dictatorships, none of which are true. You will go through temporary moments of transition and transformation where you bring all of that down, all of that fear, back down to a common practical place where you can touch it, feel it, heal it, all of it. So what are you really afraid of? It certainly isn't aging. Get down to the core of your fear and remove its cover. Age is the cover. What have you made age mean to you? These are the questions that will help you understand. That's a good question, Kaya. She says, just like thoughts are a pattern, or feelings also a program. She said, emotions are definitely programs from thoughts, and they would not exist without them. But how powerful can you utilize a thought if it isn't you, and if it isn't yours? Could you still utilize it? You always could. It's a matter of who's in the driver's seat and how aware you are of this. Emotions are a program, and you need programs to create. So, with that in mind, which one will you choose? Oh, this one here says, does Lilith have any advice for addicts? A or D? What does that mean? Alcohol or drugs? Okay. Who wish to recover but find it hard to do so because of negative perpetuating cycles in the mind. What would it look like to you to put the drug in front of you and then to just stare at it and say, what is the real drug that I'm seeking? Is it really about the drug? It likely isn't. The alcohol is a cover for what? The drugs are a cover for what? What is the real feeling I'm seeking? Most addicts become addicts because they are afraid of their own joy. They are afraid of their own success. Some are depressed and afraid of their depression. Some are anxious and afraid of their anxiety. And instead of feeling it, they would prefer to remain permanently addicted. But when your learning promotes what's the word you're using? Open up throat chakra. Disinvolvement. When your learning involves depression instead of joy, or bypassing with joy when you'd rather be depressed, when you won't sit with your thoughts and emotions long enough to watch them transcend, you can't be listening to your true vibration within. You can't truly be learning much. So the question is, do you want to learn or do you want to die? Addiction is a slow, painful death. And one day you wake up from it and you just say, I want to live, even if it's painful. I want to live, even if I don't know that I can be happy. I want to live just because it is my birthright. I call back my sovereignty through the space of all time infinitum. I call back my sovereignty from my own thoughts and fears that perpetuate lack. I call back my sovereignty throughout all the many instances where I have given my power away and continue to do so. I call back my sovereignty from my own fear. I call back my sovereignty because I know that it doesn't belong in this glass or this can or this pill in my hand. Say that when you're getting ready to do something that would further perpetuate your addiction. And I assure you, continue that and you will no longer be an addict. Hold up, I lost my place in in the line of questions again. Okay, I just completely lost my place. Hi there, back. What stops me from taking actions towards the thing that I love? She said, many of you on the path of ascension these days are more afraid of how your life would change if you were happy, of how your world would have to change and those in it if you were successful. If you were to ascend, what would be different? That's what you're afraid of. What would change? That's what you're afraid of. What work would you have to do on a daily basis? You're afraid you won't have the energy to even do that work. But what if the work that you have to do is garnered by a life force, an essence of power that is already alive with you, is just sleeping? Therefore, you can have endless energy during this transformation. You don't have to worry about being unafraid of success before you are unafraid of it. You won't know if you are unafraid of it or afraid of it until the moment it lands. But have you even given it a chance? Have you even said, I wonder how I would feel if I do the thing I love? I wonder how I would feel and how it would feel to be unafraid and do the thing I love. I'm going to do the thing I love for at least 3 hours a day before I do anything else because I love myself that much. And if I don't, I will call upon Lilith until I feel even a small amount of love and trust for myself. What does ascension mean? She said, ascension is the ultimate liberation from yourself. It is the shedding away of the snake skin of superiority, inferiority, worthiness or worthlessness, good, bad, right, wrong, or any judgment that tells you who you are or that tells others who they are. Ascension is a realization that you aren't your thoughts and that you never were. And this is just my starting point of that definition, she said. How does one let go? She's done this many times and it always pisses people off, but we're going to do it again. She said, I'm holding on. Do I need to think about how to remove my fingers? I let go. Really? That's all. I let go. I let go of knowing that I have to think about removing every single finger or how to remove the finger or if I'm going to be afraid to remove the finger or what it's going to feel like to move the finger. I just go. Did I have to think about how to let go? No. The first thing you do is breathe. The second thing you do is forgive. You don't need a nice fancy process to forgive, she says, although I can give you one if you like. You just let go. You just breathe and say, I let go. I let go of all expectations of a perceived outcome that I wanted or used to want. I let go of perceptions and fears of pain. I let go of the future and I let go of the past. And I call back my power into this present moment throughout the space of all time infinitum. I call back my power into this here, this now, and so it is. I let go so that I can go forward. These are the Lilith invocations that will change your life. Yeah. Does dreaming have a purpose? I feel like there's no rest, even when we sleep. She says dreaming is more real than most people's waking hours. Dreaming has a purpose. At times, it is for the brain to replenish itself and to heal its neurons. At other times, it is for the soul to astral travel and to recognize all of the different parallel existences. At times, it is what I've told this channel to be called spirit school, where the soul itself can learn and grow and then return to the body as it shall upon waking hours. Most of the time, dreaming is for clearing, healing, or learning. Validia said, Lilith, will you help me write the book? God suggested to me earlier today. She said, in your mind, does that feel like such a heavy task? Is there something in your mind that says, oh, Felicia, you shouldn't do that. It's too much. It's too hard. Who are you to write that? People are going to ask you, who are you to write that? Is that what you're thinking? Because if you're thinking that, give those thoughts to me or I can't help you. Give that fear to me or I can't help you. We're going to write this book a little bit at a time, sister. A little bit at a time. That's all. And we don't need any particular credentials to do it. Let's just trust each other and get started. Doesn't matter how you do it and what way you do it, how long it takes to do it. None of that matters. And I'm here for you. Nanette asked, do you have any advice for me? She said, do you fear the divine will of God? You should fear your own destiny more than you could ever possibly fear your fate. Destiny is when you, with your free agency, take your own power into your own hands. And most of the time, you think that you alone have to do it. And you don't know that all of your agency leads to something that's fated, something that's divine will, something that Divine Mother knew you were going towards anyway, and that you would land in that zone all along, and that you didn't do it. It was God is through you doing it. Do you understand where we're going here? You're not alone. Fear of divine will is one of the strangest beliefs that the human mind could possibly make. Of course you have a fate. And destiny can twist and turn and wiggle and squirm. But you're going to reach your fate. And it's going to be powerful and beautiful and perfect, no matter how much you resist it. But when you resist it a lot, just come to me. I am here. I am here with you. Messages with Marnie says, does Lilith have any guidance for me? Is Marnie's the name? Okay. She says, you cannot be totally committed to something sometimes or when it's convenient. I need you to commit to life for whatever that looks like, even though it's changing right now, and even though it feels unstable. And even though it seems that you don't know the direction you're going from left to right, from up to down on any given day, there is still a direction that you need to commit to, and I've asked you, and all of your angels have asked you. You cannot be totally committed just sometimes. Commit all the time. And we are here with you, and we are here for you. Ask your angel Gabriel. She will tell you. Hi, Katie from New Zealand. I'm happy you're here too. Brene, I'm going to butcher that name. Is it Brene or is it Bryn? I think it's Bryn. Kind of like Lynn. Is that right? Okay. Bryn. Okay. Super. You know that thing you call adulting? It's not for you. She said, and here's why. Do you remember when my friend Jesus said, except you become as little children? Do you know what that means? It means that unless you fully recognize your complete dependence on the whimsical, on the wonder, on the wild, on the goddess that is all of those things, you can't know the real power of the light that you are. So this idea that you have of I should be here at this stage of my life, at this age in my life, and I'm at the start over point. Okay, if the mind wishes to believe that, but how empowering is that? If you wish to believe it will help you through that grief. But quite frankly, you always were like a little child. And now you get that chance, that beautiful chance, that innocent moment where you can wonder how to do the adulting thing in a brand new way, from the eyes of wonder, from the eyes of innocence, from the eyes of joy, just like a little child. Don't worry. Just trust. Just play. Work should feel like play from here on out. And the change started yesterday. Literally yesterday. How does one deal with boredom? She said, sit very still. Don't say I'm bored. Sit very still and imagine a tiny ant in front of you. Maybe you can even go do this and practice this. Find an ant. Sit very still and imagine that you have nothing to do but just to watch this ant as it builds its entire mound, as it finds its queen, as it lays its eggs, and then as it prepares, as it works with other ants to bring in food. Sit very, very still and just watch. Just envision this in your mind. Do this every time. And that's it for now. You're not going to suddenly become unbored. This takes practice to understand that you are the ant and that you are just like that. It takes practice to understand that your light, your charisma is just like the ant. To be just like the ant, you must let nothing stop you. You have an eternal charisma, an eternal drive, an eternal passion. And when you are bored, you are not working towards it, with it. You are not letting it drive you. You are not letting it be the fuel for the engine of your own soul. So then go be the ant. Cristel Nino, yes, she will give you. So, Cristel, the voice of spirit is strong, and the strongest voice right now lies within the fairy kingdom. It lies within the fae. She said, go get yourself a record keeper, Cristel, and hold it. And ask for the fae to show you the cities within. You long for a time that your soul is more in that time than it is in this time. Your soul is more in those fairy kingdom lands than it is in this world, on this earth. But when you connect and you remember your soul family and you ask for the fae to guide you, you will find your magic again. And you will be active in helping and healing and wondering and practicing with spirit in your own art that is lying dormant within you, which wishes to arise. Fire is your element, so perhaps you should ask in congruency with the cycles of the moon and with the element of the fire. Yeah. She joked about this one. This will be my last questions because I have to go, but this one says, where does Lilith live? And she reminded me, she gave me this vision of Lucy in the movie. Did you watch that movie, Lucy? And then at the very end, and there's just nothing. There's not even clothes on the floor when Lucy ascends. And they said, where are you? And she said, I'm everywhere. Lilith lives everywhere. She is a prime creator. Here to help women and children in the restoration of the divine feminine. And she is an essence that lives absolutely everywhere. Okay. I gotta go. I wish I didn't have to because as usual, you guys are so super wonderful. And I love my time with you. If you want more of these channelings, I have hundreds of them. Literally at my Patreon channel is linked above. Go there, go to the search bar and click in channeling, and you'll just see like from all the way back to 2017 different channelings that you have never seen here before. My next channeling is on Thursday, November the 25th. It's a human from the future from 2111. Her name is Chelsea, and she's from the New Earth Order. My last channeling that I did there was Jessie from the Republican Renegade Order of the year 2111. And she was cool too. So a lot of different perspectives there, not just the clarion perspective. We took it deeper, and we're going to keep taking it deeper. So I'll see you again on November the 25th for that. And I love you. You're so awesome. Thank you so much for giving me this platform and letting me channel for you. And I hope that you have a really, really, really awesome night. Bye.